police chiefs across the country keep crime down. This is an article in the Los Angeles Times, and I'll put the link in the show notes below, but it is very accurate. I've talked about this before. The chief of the Los Angeles Police Department, I covered this a while ago, said this crackdown is bad for solving crimes, and as a result, I've tracked this since the beginning of the year, since Trump started wanting to do this, is that, and then I reported it as this happened. Then in Los Angeles several months ago, domestic abuse, sexual assault, and crimes like that were starting to be reported less. They're like, it's not like less of them are happening in the Latino communities because people are afraid to report them because they're going to go get locked up. So when people started doing sanctuary cities, you actually started to see people, and law enforcement doing more community policing within the Latino community, saying, hey, you're not going to get deported. We want you to help. Then, and I'll go into some of the examples. Then in those, there's specific examples in these communities of how people were like, oh, okay. And they helped and they interact and they helped solve a crime or stop someone or whatever. And and the police were like, oh, this person, if they knew they could get deported, wouldn't have probably have helped us. There's an estimated 11 million undocumented people in the United States. And there's so many reasons for it. Part of which is globalization and capitalism plunders societies. But I don't want to live in a country that's just so ugly and awful. America's a really ugly, awful place. And today all the reports came out about Louis C.K., which in the comedy community, I've heard about this for a while. I even talked about it on Twitter like a year ago. I called him out on it. But it's an awful place. America is just, it's just ugly, and we need to confront the ugliness, which I'm glad people are stepping forward. This video isn't about Louis C.K., but he's an asshole, and I'm glad people are calling him out, and fuck him, and fuck Kevin Spacey, and Harvey Weinstein, and show business. Awful behavior is rewarded. Awful behavior. If you're an awful person, male or female, it's a boys' club for sure. It's a patriarchy, but I've seen plenty of, not all, but I've seen some women who got in positions of power in Hollywood, and they're just awful people. They're just mean, bully assholes, and it's just like it's accepted in Hollywood. Oh, once you become powerful and famous, then you can shit on everybody. It's just like, ugh, fuck you. And then there's all these sexual predators. Fuck him. I hope he goes to jail. But I want to go back to this. I'll give you an example. So in Tucson, an undocumented man Tucson is a sanctuary city. An undocumented man confronted and physically struggled with a man who tried to steal a car with children inside. The immigrant held the criminal long enough for local police to arrive, then cooperated with detectives in follow-up investigation. As a result, the suspect was charged with kidnapping, auto theft, and burglary. In Laredo, Texas, Sister Rosemary Welsh runs Casa de Misericordia, my apologies for butchering that word, which provides shelter to women, many of whom are undocumented immigrants and victims of domestic violence. Because of the trust Sister Rosemary has built with local law enforcement and the women in her facility, more victims are reporting crime and more offenders are identified and prosecuted. This is the thing that the chief of LAPD warned about at the beginning of the year, is then these communities are going to become unsafe if they're not sanctuary cities and stuff like that, if ICE agents are just raiding, because then there's going to be, not mostly men probably, but predators saying, well, I'm going to commit this crime against this person that's undocumented because they're not going to report it. It's not all men. 20% of all domestic abuse is women against men. Just a stat. It's mostly men, though. We need to hold everybody accountable. Anyone that's an abusive, predatory asshole, male or female, gay or straight, they need to be held accountable. In Los Angeles, a city with an estimated 375,000 undocumented immigrants, has a policy prohibiting police from engaging in enforcement activities based solely on a person's immigration status since 1979. Last year, LAPD officers had an encounter with a suspected gang member that resulted in a vehicle chase, a foot pursuit, and shots being fired. An undocumented immigrant helped police locate the suspect by providing a description and vehicle information. Had these undocumented people and countless others in cities across America not stepped forward to report crime and cooperate with police, we would have more dangerous offenders committing more crime and more serious a crime against innocent victims. That is not just in terms of the immigration issue in this country, with anything. If people feel safe that they can step forward to report any crime, sexual harassment, sexual assault, you don't have to be an undocumented. You can be an American citizen, but if you don't feel safe enough to talk about it, you're not going to. You know? And so that is specific to this law, why it's an awful law. I mean, and again, I've said this numerous times, Trump is just a very ugly, most egregious form of what this country's been doing for a while. Obama deported 2 million people. Again, he wasn't as ugly as this. He didn't publicly say travel ban. I'm rounding him up. He didn't say that, but he did deport 2 million people, man. That's a lot. He was nicknamed Deporter in Chief, and Trump just comes in and does a grosser version of it. And this is the thing. Why, if your city isn't a sanctuary city, give these statistics. Like if you're like, oh, Graham, I live in a real red city or red state or whatever, and they would never go for this. Give them these statistics. Have other police, get this information from other police chiefs and give it to your police chief, even if you live in a small town, and say, look, it's not good for solving crimes. It doesn't make the populace more safe. It makes it more dangerous. I say all this time, how do you make change? You stick with facts. You get out of conspiracies and emotion. I mean, a little emotion's good, obviously, but stick to the facts and show them the facts of this. And it makes it more doable. If Trump is an awful, scary president, he's an awful, awful person. But a lot of politicians and people of power are awful. I mean, many of you have reminded me, female viewers of this show have reminded me that it was Hillary Clinton that went after female accusers of Bill Clinton when she was a lawyer. It just shows you how powerful people react to stuff. So this thing is actually in the middle of an awful, ICE people rounding up and deporting everybody. But this report is actually this is a positive sign. The people, women, men coming forward against Kevin Spacey and Louis C.K. and Bryan Singer and Harvey Weinstein, all these people. It's good. It's good that people are coming forward. And if you've been the victim of some crime, I hope you feel safe enough to come forward. I hope you can talk to some people in your area to feel safe enough to come forward to report it, because when people think they can get away with stuff, they oftentimes will. And we got to hold everybody accountable. So, thank you for watching the show. And my Patreon, guys, we're kind of getting close to 800. I want to get us up to, if we can get over $1,000, I can hire a producer. And that means they can do all the posting and the editing, which means I have more time to put up more content. I do 12 videos a week, plus the super chat and a bonus video and audio every week. I'd like to do more. I'd like to give more bonus stuff on the Patreon and just produce more videos, especially since YouTube, of course, has demonetized a bunch of stuff. So thank you for supporting the show, and thank you for supporting the truth, and thank you to anybody that's ever spoken up and had the courage to speak up, because it's not easy.